So I really wanted to tell you a funny story, and I thought it would be a fun thing to do if I put it to music as well. But I don't have a microphone at home, so I'm recording this on my telephone, and I'm recording the instruments on my computer. So anyway, a long time ago, there was this little kid, and he was, just being at home, doing whatever, and he decided to go outside. And once he got outside, the storyteller decided to take a break and have a beer. So anyway, he goes outside and he sees this dog outside, and it's a really big dog. So the little kid goes, "Dude, you've got to be the biggest dog in the world." And the dog is like, "Nope, the biggest dog in the world lives on the next street." So the guy is like, "Oh, dude." So he starts walking towards the next street, and he sees this dog that's even bigger than the last dog. And then he looks at the dog and he says, "Dude, you've got to be the biggest dog in the world." And the dog's like, "Nope, the biggest dog in the world lives in the next city." So the guy's like, "Well, I've got to be home for dinner, but fuck it all, I've got to see the biggest dog in the world." So he starts walking across like state lines and everything, and he comes to the next city, and he sees this huge dog over there, and he's like, "Oh, dude, you've got to be the biggest dog in the world." And the dog's like, "Nope, the biggest dog in the world lives in the next county." And the guy's like, "Oh, I've really got to go home for dinner, but fuck it, I want to see the biggest dog in the world." So he starts walking, and he goes across state lines again, and he comes to the next county, and he sees this huge dog, and the dog is like not doing anything because the guy didn't ask him yet. And the guy says, "Whoa, you got to be the biggest dog in the world." And the dog is like, "Nope, the biggest dog in the world lives in the next country." So this little kid is like, I'm just a little kid. How the fuck am I going to go to a new country? But he's like, "Well, fuck it. I got a passport. I'll use my parents' credit cards." So he buys an airline tickets and he goes to the next country. And you know what? When he gets to the next country, he gets off the airplane and he's walking down the street and he sees this huge fucking dog, and he walks up to the dog and he goes, "Dude, you've got to be the biggest dog in the world." And the dog's like, "Sorry, buddy. Nope, I'm not the biggest dog in the world. The biggest dog in the world lives in the next continent." So the guy's like, "Oh, fuck, I just got out of the fucking country. I've never been out of the country before. Now I have. And now I have to go to a new continent? Oh my God." So anyway, he gets on the plane again and he flies to the new continent where he's supposed to find the biggest dog in the world. He gets off the airplane. He starts walking along the streets and he sees this dog that is fucking massive. And he says, "Dude, you've got to be the biggest dog in the world." And the dog is like, "Nope, the biggest dog in the world lives on the moon." And the guy's like, "Fuck, how am I gonna get to the moon?" So anyway, he starts studying to be an astronaut. He goes to school, he starts doing all the swirly tests to make sure he can handle the G-forces. And after a while, somebody says, "Well, you know what? You're good enough to go to the moon. Yeah, let's go to the moon." So the guy jumps on the spacecraft thingamajig, and they shoot up in the air, and everything goes really fine. They land on the moon, and he walks out on the moon. He's like, "Oh, dude, I've got to see this." And he sees this dog on the moon that is huge. And he walks up to the dog and he says, "Dude, you've really got to be the biggest dog in the world." And the dog goes, "Nope, the biggest dog in the world lives on the next planet." So the guy goes like, "What, am I going to be the first guy on a new planet?" "Well, I've got to be, because I got to find the biggest dog in the world." So, sorry for the burp, he goes on the airplane again. Or not an airplane, the spacecraft. And he sits down and he starts doing all the controllers, and he's like, "Houston, well, you know what? I'm gonna, go to another planet." And Houston is like, "Well, that's interesting." So anyway, he shoots off in the rocket. He goes to another planet. He gets on the planet, and everything is weird because like all green things are purple and all red things are green. And he starts walking around. He sees this dog that is just amazingly huge, and he goes, "Dude, you've got to be the biggest dog in the well, we're not in the world anymore. We're in the universe. And the dog is like, nope, sorry, buddy. The biggest dog in the world is in the next galaxy. And he's like, well, what the hell? No human has ever been to a new galaxy. But he says, you know what? I'm going to be able to do it anyway. So I'm just going to keep going. And he gets on the spaceship. And you know what? He starts up that spaceship. He cranks it up like a V8 engine on the Route 66 highway. And he just flies. He flies. He just keeps going, man. And you know what? He finally gets to the new galaxy. He finds the new galaxy. He lands on the first planet he can find, and he sees a huge dog sitting on the planet he just landed on. He walks up to the dog, he looks at him, and he says, you know what? You've got to be the biggest dog I've ever seen in the entire universe. And the dog goes, yep.